Blue-Red Delver continues to be a menace in Legacy, taking up almost 30% of the metagame at this point. Will Wizards ever do anything about it? I'd hope so, but they probably need to do something about it soon. This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. Use the link in the description below to get singles and sealed product and support the show. And if you are looking to help support me directly via Patreon, the alt sleeve for this month is our Lord and Savior, Cat Jesus. You can get a link to the Patreon down below. For just $2 a month, you can get a free alt sleeve and access to the Discord server. Back in January of this year, Ragavan Nimble Pilferer was banned from Legacy because it was warping the format. It was in a lot of decks, and primarily it was making Blue-Red Delver very, very strong. Fast forward to April, and Goldfish has the metagame share of Blue-Red Delver at 27.6%. Fucking hell. This is not an unusual circumstance, right? Delver has always been a deck that takes over Legacy. It's always been one of the best decks in Legacy for as long as I can remember, on and off. There's been periods where it's been weaker, but it's always been one of the better decks. It also tends to have this habit of taking on the best cards and bringing them into the fold and making them obnoxious. Whether that be your Okos, your Deathrite Shamans, or your Wrenn and Sixes. This is not exclusively an issue with Blue-Red Delver, but more Blue Pile. When I say Blue Pile, that is decks that utilize a selection of blue cards to fuck your opponent up by having good selection and good interaction to allow these broken cards to really flourish. Blue Pile, of which the Delver archetype is part of, are decks that involve Brainstorm, Ponder, sometimes Preordain, Daze, and Force of Will. The pillars of the format. At time of recording, Ragavan is banned, but Murktide Regent isn't. Murktide Regent is a 7-mana 3/3 flyer from Modern Horizons 2 with Delve and Flying. But when you delve it, which is pretty fucking easy by the way, you're going to reduce the cost of this by 5 quite regularly. But when you delve it, you put +1/+1 counters on it, it equals the number of instants and sources that you exiled whilst delving, and it grows whilst you're doing. In my preview video for it, I didn't preview it, but when I talked about it during previews in either a short or a shorter video, I pointed out how this seems very good compared to even Gurmag or Tombstalker, the previous delve threats of the format. But on top of that, they even play together quite well. But the second one will grow the first one, although it just turns out you don't really need a second one the majority of the time. It's a fucking big threat that dies to almost nothing. It doesn't die to Bolt the majority of the time. It doesn't die to Abrupt Decay. It does die to things like Assassin's Trophy and weirder removal that's a bit more fringe, but the thing it does die to now is Pyroblast. Pyroblast is showing up as copies 1, 2, sometimes even 3 copies main deck in most red decks in the format. Pyroblast just allows you to counter blue spells, namely Murktide Regent and Kappa Cannoneer, and it also allows you to blow them up once they've resolved, so it's not a case of having to hit them on the stack, or if they've resolved then you can't deal with them. When you have decks playing main board answers to cards like Murktide Regent, you know there's a problem. People kind of argue that Hogak wasn't too good for Modern, but when everyone was playing main deck Leyline, when Leyline was the most played card in the format, people suddenly realised that maybe, just maybe, Hogak is warping the game. But the problem that I see with it is it's not that other decks are playing Pyroblast, although they may well be, I haven't really checked the numbers, but other decks aren't playing Pyroblast to beat Blue-Red Delver. It's that Blue-Red Delver is playing Pyroblast to beat Blue-Red Delver. Blue-Red Delver is the best deck in the format. And I don't always think that's great when Delver is the best deck. And in a tweet from Tom White, McWin Source, he pointed out that there were 28 players in the MOX, the Magic Online Championship, or Showcase Championship, or Showcase Qualifier. You know what, I forget what any of this fucking shit's called these days. But there's 28 players in this event, and 13 of them are Delver. That's a 46% Blue-Red Delver turnout. Nearly 50% of them, the Legacy Showcase Qualifier. I thought it was a MOX. I'm so fucking confused. But either way, a premium online Magic Online Legacy event nearing 50%, 46.42857. It's nearly 50%. As you can see, Blue-Red Delver did not win. That was 5-color Yorion Zenith. That is a deck name. But they did take 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, as well as 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. That's right, out of the top 12 decks of the game, of the event, there were only 3 decks that weren't Delver. Naya Depths, Jesco Control, and the Yorion deck that came first. Well done to McWinsource, by the way. The person who posted this to Twitter was the person who took 5-color Yorion Zenith to a 7-1 finish. People much smarter than I have talked about how Delver will always do this. Mainly not just because of the existence of the Delver creature type itself, but the blue selection and the blue interaction, that sort of pile, that blue pile element, that always allows it to prop up blue threats and blue planeswalkers, and sometimes not even blue ones. Like Ren and 6 was best when it was paired with Daze, Force of Will, Brainstorm, and Ponder. Ragavan being banned did fuck all, and banning Murktide will only once again put a band-aid over the issue. There at some point we've got to talk about, and Wizards have got to consider, that one of the holy blue piled staples, the pillars, the holy cows, they need to be sacrificed. They need to go. So we don't keep having this every time a powerful tempo or mid-range threat shows up and takes over the format. Legacy isn't in the worst place right now. There's quite a few decks that do have counterplay to Blue-Red Delver. It's just that Blue-Red Delver probably has the best matchups overall, hence why it's being played so much. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I do think something like Daze or Brainstorm or Ponder needs to go. Brainstorm has been a pillar of the format since forever. I have never seen Legacy without Brainstorm, and a lot of people would be very angry if it got taken away. There's a lot of people that say they would quit if it was taken away, which I think is kind of wild, but there you go. So why not leave Brainstorm in the format, the card that basically breaks fetch lands and makes all this interaction so good, and maybe get rid of Ponder. Ponder is the weaker of the two, although it's better on its own without a fetch land, arguably, but removing one of these will then weaken the deck. It allows them to fill the yard less, it allows them to filter through the deck less, see less cards, and have less of a consistent game plan. The problem you have there is that if Ponder goes, it probably just gets replaced with Preordain, and then we have only a marginally worse version of the deck. The other option is something like Force of Will or Daze. I don't think Force of Will can ever go. The existence of Force of Will, and to a lesser extent Force of Negation, keeps the format honest. It stops Charbelcher from being a menace. I think Legacy really needs Force of Will. And Daze performs a similar role, except it's punishing and forces people to play around it even when it's not there. I think Daze is a better one to go. Free counter magic has a place in Legacy, and I think it's valuable. I just don't think that you necessarily need all of the pieces, or especially one that can be so tempo driven. I guess Daze is worse in the late game, so there might be an argument for Daze being better than Force of Will in some ways. But Force of Will is actually a hard check on the format, a safety valve, if you will, where Daze can be played through, which I don't think is good for the combo decks, but I think it's better if there's just less of that interaction to prop up things like Murktides, Ren and 6s, and Okos. That said, if you go back and look at deck lists for when Oko was at the top of the format as well, the decks that knocked me out of contention for cash at GP prior to the last Legacy GP I got to go to, I don't think either of the top two decks that I played against both of them and they fought in the finals, I don't think either of them were playing Daze. So actually getting rid of Daze might not stop this problem in the long term. What I'm getting at is they can't keep banning all the new threats. Something else has got to go. The other consideration is fetch lands, but I like them so much in how they interact with everything else in the format, honestly. With Sylvan Library, with Life from the Loam, with Tireless Tracker, with God knows how many other cards that see play in main boards and sideboards. I really like fetch lands and what they bring to the game. Meanwhile, one of the blue cantrips could go, fuck it, maybe Ponder and Preordain just go together. Or one of the blue interaction spells, just so that we don't always settle into the state of fucking blue pile decks, whether that be Miracles at one time or another, or Delver being the best deck. But I'm also biased, because outside of Show and Tell, I don't play a whole lot of blue pile decks. I'm much more of a D&T Maverick and Prison kind of guy. So maybe, just maybe, I am biased. But ignoring the bias, the win percentages and the metagame shares are there. Fucking 13 out of 28 decks is Blue-Red Delver. Fucking nearly, was it 30, 40%? 30%, which is shy of 30% metagame share called the Goldfish. Those numbers are there, that's a problem. So something needs to be done. What do you think? Do you think that I'm aiming the gun at the wrong things? Do you think that actually keeping the holy trifecta, the holy pantheon of blue spells there and banning out new stuff is okay? Do you actually think that's a positive thing to be doing? Let me know in the comment section below. I've been Vince. Thank you for watching. Smash that like button and sign up to my fucking Patreon. You get one of these. It's an altar sleeve. You get one of these for free every month, a new, unique one, as well as the Discord server, as well as events on the Discord. In the meantime, why don't you watch this video where I play the most expensive Risen Reef deck in history. That's right, it's vintage. That's right, we're playing Elementals. The deck is fucking sweet. Thanks for watching, I'll see you all soon. Ta for now.